Well, I guess it's 6:03. It looks like we have a quorum. We're missing a couple of Steves and a John, but I think we're good, right? Is this enough of us?
And Heidi.
Yeah.
Oh, and Heidi, yes. We don't have a quorum. We should wait a little bit longer.
We don't have a quorum yet, do we? One,
So
two,
I only see 4.
5.
Yeah, no, we need at least one other person. I think.
5. Yeah, we need one more to make quorum.
So what would happen if Winter Carnival got, I don't know what, shunted off until Saturday?
Last I heard, they were only talking about a couple inches. I mean, it didn't
It's
sound.
the
Right,
ice.
it's that it's ice. That's what
The
that's
ice.
the only thing. It's not accumulation, it's that it's going to be icy.
It's going to ice and then it's going to snow on top of the ice, which is the worst case scenario.
I mean, it won't be a very pleasant day for the ice carvers, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
no,
don't even know
right.
if they're going to be able to get here, but we'll see.
Hmm.
And the parade of lights, I know the parade of lights might be canceled. The fireworks people have to come from an hour away. So everything's kind of up in the air right now.
Oh, what a shame. Well,
Yeah.
maybe it'll be okay, you know?
I hope so.
It'll be one of those other, we get all wound up about it and then it's nothing. Remember that a couple of years ago when they called off school and told everyone to stay home and
Yeah.
nothing happened?
Here's hoping. Now that I get the day off and my son gets the day off.
Well, why don't I'll see, I think I have John's phone. Let's see if I do. I can text him.
And I do want to point out, although it's not strictly the letter of the law, but they do frown on having big discussions with groups that don't have quorum because it's essentially like having an ad hoc meeting.
Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll postpone
Yeah.
if we don't get a quorum. I'm just going to ask, I do have John's phone number, so I'll see if he's coming.
Is it though? Because I mean, we are in compliance with open meeting law and we can still take minutes and preserve the records of the meeting. We just can't make any decisions.
Well, I'm only telling you what the state of Massachusetts has told me, which is
Fair enough.
they consider it kind of a essentially what happens is you don't really take minutes. You're not supposed to take minutes because it's not actually a meet. Like if we took minutes, then it would be a meeting. We'd be having a meeting without a quorum.
Are we prohibited from having a meeting without quorum? I thought we just couldn't
Yes.
vote without
No,
quorum.
that's what I'm saying. The absolute letter of the law says we are not technically prohibited, but the very, very strong recommendation from the open meeting laws is to not have, it would be like if 5 of us met on the sidewalk.
Well, except that it's scheduled and it's scheduled and calendared and public noticed, so it's not quite.
I don't like it either. And if we want to go for it, we can. I'm just telling you what I've read.
I'm not trying to start a dispute.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
the clarity to understand what you'd been told. That's all. I mean, that's different in different organizations too.
Yeah, the open meeting laws are a blessing and a curse. But part of my job specifically is to make sure committees follow the open meeting laws. So it's extra hard for me to try to, to not do it.
But can we share information?
Yes.
We just can't discuss and deliberate.
Yeah.
And we're not keeping minutes. We could go around and just say what's up that we know about.
Although then in order to let the other people who weren't here know about our conversation, then we would need to take minutes. And this is how it starts getting sticky. Because otherwise we're having a conversation that half of our committee is not hearing. If John would just come, we wouldn't even have to worry about this.
Well, he's not answering my text. Does anybody, oh, here's John. Sorry, he can't make it. He will not be here. Does anybody have the either of the Steve's phone numbers to do so?
I have Steve.
Oh,
Great.
Do you want to
Yeah.
see if he can make it,
Yeah,
Gretchen?
Goldshire, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can share information in the same way that we could send around information via email before a meeting, but that's not supposed to include conversation. It's really supposed to be just dissemination of information.
Okay, well, I will disseminate the information that I think you all got, that we're having a forum on Monday night called the Deliberate Downtown, the Reboot. And we're hoping that people can come and participate
Mhm.
and hear why we were going to do it 2 years ago, what we've done in the interim, and where we're going with it.
And Christian did a great job on the images that are now in the Wilson's windows. If people haven't seen them, showing the proposed redo of Main Street with a lot of the showing where features are along Main Street. So I recommend if people haven't seen that to take a look.
I'll also just email Steve Hussey. I don't have his phone number.
Okay, and I'm waiting to hear back from Steve Gulcher.
I am going to send out a sternly worded email also to committee members saying, if you don't think you're going to be able to make it, please let us know prior to the meeting instead of leaving us all here hanging.
I suppose since we can't actually choose our own committee members, we don't have any ability to censure or remove members who don't show.
There's Steve Gulcher.
Steve, yay.
I had a hard time getting into this meeting.
I did too. Something weird was going on.
Well, I
Write
didn't
some
realize
code.
it was attached to the attachment that said CDC agenda. I was looking, normally it doesn't
Oh.
come in an attachment like that. So sorry about that.
Well, good. So we now have quorum. So I hereby call this meeting to order. Has everybody had a chance to take a glance at the minutes for approval? Do we have a motion in the room to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Caitlin has approved
No,
and
I-
Steve has seconded. Oh, no, Steve's not
not
seconding.
a second. I have a question. I brought up an issue last time about electric bikes. We talked about maybe, and I forget why it got dismissed quickly, but I didn't see any mention in the minutes. I don't know why.
I don't
Would
remember
you
what.
like to make that, would you make that amendment to the minutes that Steve brought up the idea of electric bikes? Ellie, do you mind adding that edit, please?
Don't mind if it, what was it in, what section? Where should I put it, Steve?
We were talking about ideas, different innovations for downtown, and I said, what about getting electric bikes like they have down in Northampton and Amherst, Holyoke, Springfield, everywhere. And I actually did some more research on that, but I didn't see anything in the minutes about it. So I can't say exactly where it should go, but it was just a discussion.
All right, I'll tuck it somewhere.
I think maybe at the end of the first paragraph under the Community Preservation Act, right where it talks about the chess table and the solar picnic table.
Great.
Yeah.
I think it was in that discussion.
That's great. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Ellie. Caitlin, would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, I will. I just had one question I just remembered. In my head, I had flipped which grant allowed in kind. It is the smaller grant that allows in kind and the bigger one
Cross
doesn't.
development that allows in kind.
Okay.
Correct.
I make a motion to accept the amended minutes.
Great. And do we have a second on the floor?
No, actually, you've already got a second. That was a friendly amendment from the person who made the motion.
thank
So
you.
you don't
Okay,
actually need a
great.
new second.
Great. All right. So now we'll go around the room and we will.
I'm sorry, what was the motion for and who made it? So someone made a motion to accept the amended minutes. Who was that?
That was me, Caitlin.
Caitlin, okay. Caitlin, on my screen, your visual is delayed from your.
Oh,
your
no,
logo,
let's
so
try-
I have
Let me
trouble.
try turning off my video. See if
Okay,
that helps.
okay.
There.
Okay, so Caitlin made the motion and who seconded it?
Rachel seconded it.
Rachel, thank you.
Great. All right. Good. We have a. So we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the minutes of last month. Let us go around the room and aye or nay. Caitlin, I see you first.
Aye.
Ellie, I see you second.
Aye.
Steve, I see you.
Aye.
Aye. All right. And Gretchen, I see you.
Aye.
Ellie,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the minutes have now hereby passed unanimously. Very exciting. And the first item on our agenda is per Gretchen. Gretchen, would you like to explain to us what you'd like to talk about here?
Yeah, so I'm relatively new to the committee, and I got to take my headphones out. I have a strong internal control background and auditing background, and so I'm having trouble understanding when like, for instance, when we did this.
And here I am.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When we did the $7,500 grant, I have trouble understanding how we decided how to allocate like the $5,000 to the tunnel and the $1,500 to the festival and then the $1,000 to the mosaic. Like I don't understand why we decided that allocation. And I feel like that in our position on this committee, that if somebody from the public came to us and said, you know, how did you decide that? I wouldn't know how to answer them. So I'm wondering how like what kind of controls we have in place to show, you know, that there was backup or support for those dollar values for any of them. And then after that process, then when the money is received, what are the controls in place that show that the money was actually distributed to the projects that we allocated them to, and they actually, you know, got used for what we said they would.
Very good. That's clear.
I'm really I'm uncomfortable with having money come in, you know, that we have approved. We have approved this money, but I don't know why I approved it. Like, I don't know why I thought that was okay to, like, I didn't see a budget anywhere saying that it'll cost, you know, $1,500 for the fall festival. Now I can see the fall festival, and yeah, I'm sure there's $1,500, but I wouldn't know how to show that to a citizen or a taxpayer saying, how are you using my tax dollars?
I think we understand your question,
Okay.
Gretchen, and thank you very much for it. And I saw Rachel's hand. Thank you,
Yeah,
Rachel.
I can speak to both of those concerns. The decision making was done in open session, in a recorded session where we kept minutes and posted them, and we deliberated and decided, and that's it. There's no more to it than that. Now, in terms of how we made our decision, we did in fact look at budgets. There was a budget for the Winter Festival that was distributed prior to the meeting, as well as a budget for all the other projects that was submitted. And those budgets certainly informed our decision. But at the end of the day, we have complete discretion to distribute those funds however we want. And because we said so, not meaning to be flippant, is in fact a valid answer in this case. But the course of the debate is a matter of public record at this point, and anybody can refer to it. And if anyone asks, it would be as simple as saying we talked about several different projects, we looked at budgets, and we chose based on a majority vote. And that's the whole answer. Now, as far as the second half of the question and the cost controls, Caitlin or MJ may be able to better speak to this as municipal employees, but that's fully audited under state law already. And the difficulty of the artists getting that money, speaking both personally and as a former chair, is an ongoing topic of discussion because of those audit requirements. So in terms of did the money go to where we said it was going to go and did it get spent properly, that's as fully audited as it possibly can be. As I said, it's a matter of municipal requirement under state law. So
and Rachel, I'm not attacking. I mean this totally from a you know, a public perception. Like I think it's really important that we're completely transparent. So MJ, like if someone wanted to come in and see those audits or see how that money was spent, how would we do that? Like, I mean, I have a very strong internal control background. So this, you know, this $5,000 going to the tunnel, I'm like, why did we give $5,000 to the tunnel, or why did we give $1,000 to the mosaic? I just, and so Rachel, you said that there was a budget. I don't remember seeing a budget. So for the overpass, there was I'm sorry, for the tunnel, there was a budget, but that budget kind of showed a projector and projecting the images on the wall. And by the end of the meeting, that had changed to like strings of lights going across the tunnel. So it feels like the scope of the project changed. And so I would assume that the budget changed. So I don't understand. It feels like we're just kind of pulling numbers out of the air, and that makes me uncomfortable.
Thank you, Gretchen. Caitlin, do you have a response?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say what Rachel said is absolutely true. Our job as a committee is to make these decisions. That's why we're here. We have the discretion to make these decisions. That's why we've been appointed to this committee. That's part of our responsibility. As far as budgets go, Linda and I both have worked on the local cultural council for years and years. And yes, artists have to show budgets, but a big part of why they have to show budgets is really to prove that they can actually do what they're going to do. And art is not, I don't know exactly what your background is, but art is not like widgets. It's not like building a building with girders. It's more nebulous, and it's not as easy to put down where the money goes exactly. And almost never are we paying completely for the work.
We never have.
Someone else
We never
is
paid for that.
they're almost always getting money from somewhere else as well. So that's a big part of it. And sometimes the artist, because it is art and things happen, they have to shift money around. So this is not like, for instance, something that would go through procurement at the city. It's not that kind of a budget. We work differently. And the Mass Cultural Council, because this is what they do, they understand that.
Right.
And we have worked with them for many years now, and this is the way it happens.
So MJ, so with the auditing, then how would a citizen come in and say, show me where that $1,000 for the mosaic went?
I think MJ is looking to answer that part of your question, Gretchen.
happy
Go
to.
ahead, MJ. Thank you.
So the cultural district committee makes the decisions about what they're allocating funds to, and then when there's a payment that needs to be made on that, an invoice is submitted to my office and we put it on the town warrant. And the invoice is the statement from whoever is receiving the payment that they have completed the work. Sometimes the challenge is that we don't pay for work until after it's done, which can sometimes be challenging, especially for the artist community. So we've looked to be as flexible as we can be on that. But there is an invoice that goes on the town warrant that's associated with every payment that's made out on this grant.
Okay, and can you just explain to me what the town warrant is? Is that like the town
Oh, that's
register?
like the bills, the warrant is the bills payable every week. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
municipal term.
And Rachel,
It's
you
a
have
schedule of bills that we pay every week. So Christian actually prepares the department's warrant, and I sign off on it. I review all the bills, approve them, and then they go over to accounting and the checks are cut.
Okay, so there are invoices that are backed up.
Mhm.
Use the support for all of these. Okay, well that gives me some comfort for sure.
Rachel, do you have a comment there?
Well, I just wanted to add on to that. Again, from having seen this from both sides, wherever possible, the artists do submit proof of completion as well. And that's been another point where when I had my artist hat on, I grumbled an awful lot about it because it's not always easy to do, especially midway in a project. But we have always had some form of proof of completion, either photos of the work or the work itself. One time we allocated a small amount to buy one fiberglass bee form in the bee project, and when the bee got delivered, I submitted the bill of lading. There's always something to establish, and as MJ said, this is all part of the same municipal payment system that would pay a road contractor or anybody else, so it can all be audited in the same way.
Okay, great,
So
thank
when
you.
the
That
road
gives me a,
contractor would be paid a fair wage and a living wage and wouldn't be thrown peanuts like $7,500 per year for, nurturing the cultural district, right? There's that. I mean, we really are not talking about very much money either.
Yeah, and also, I mean, when you're paying for design, it's not, design is a work in process. So we frequently will make, we're okay about making a percentage payment based on an estimate that 50% of the design work is done. So we know that that art is not your typical, materials and labor that you buy to do road work. Road work's very pretty straightforward, but the creative economy and the creatives they operate a little bit different, but we in some ways have to pull them into our system for that backup and accountability. And I think as much as possible, we've struck I think a reasonable balance. I wish we could be more flexible, but we live within the requirements of the municipal accounting system.
Thank you, MJ. Caitlin.
I just want to make a quick comment too, that in fact, the MCC, which used to always pay the cultural district grants that way, where it was reimbursement, understands enough the problem of that they will now pay upfront before the work is done. So
Right.
It is a little bit different.
Right. Does anybody else have a comment on this topic number 1 on the agenda?
Oh,
Thank you, Ellie.
I just wanted to reinforce what Rachel said about the internal controls being those of the municipal entity.
Good.
When the payments go out, all the internal controls are in place up to that standard, right? That's what everybody's saying.
Which is a very high standard, right? I mean, we know
It's
this.
not, we're not cutting the checks, the city's cutting the checks. So
Right.
and all those systems are in place and presumably up to your standards, right?
Okay, great, thank you. This gives me some comfort, for sure.
Quick question. This is all very new to me, so I'm trying to listen and learn. Does the Mass Cultural Council write a check to the town of Greenfield, literally, for $7,500?
That's correct.
And does that go into like a separate account for arts projects, or is it like a whole budget, the same budget as paying for, some other unrelated to art aspect?
It's
of
a line item, as I understand. Caitlin, can you speak to that question, dear?
I believe it is separate. I think that's one of the requirements of the MCC, is that it needs to go into its own little place. MJ, maybe you can confirm.
It goes into its own account, its own line item account on the
Right.
general fund budget.
That's what I
But it
thought.
goes into, the city has one big bank account that they drop all the money into, and then it's earmarked or encumbered specifically the $7,500 to be used in this explicit way as was approved under the grant. And it's my office's responsibility to make sure that that $7,500 is used for the purposes that the grant outlined it, and that it goes through when the payment happens, that we approve the payments and that the checks go out to the people they're supposed to.
Great. That's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comment on that agenda item? All right. I think
Just thank you I really appreciate the clarification. That's good.
okay.
Thank you.
Great. So let's go on to the next item on the agenda. Let's look at our projects in whatever order anybody wants to speak about. I know we've got, I've been in communication with both Rachel and Caitlin, and I've had an extensive conversation with Rachel, who is ready to sort of make not a presentation, but to offer some further information about the kiosk. And I actually am a step behind, I'm afraid, with Caitlin, so I don't know what your report contains, but whoever wants to go first can go first. Rachel, off you go.
I'm happy to speak.
Thank you.
I should also add that I've got so far a phone tag only, but with Miss Conti, and I presume
I did
something
talk
to
to her
do with the
today.
mural.
I talked to her today, so I can follow up after you're
Wonderful.
done.
That's great news.
Great.
Okay.
She was said she had a question about artists, so I didn't know what exactly that was regarding, but I assumed it was mural related. So, Linda and I had a conversation. She had asked me for some clarification on what I thought the kiosk thing looked like, because she had started doing some research, and there's a plethora of information out there, a wide variety of stuff that's available, and
galaxy out there, yeah.
From the, some of it getting into just crazy elaborate stuff, and is this 4 giant TV screens formed into a pillar, and all kinds of different stuff that's out there. And so what I had envisioned when I pitched the idea was something far, far simpler than that. So I'm thinking of a small weatherproof structure, sort of like a podium, if you will, with a flat touchscreen. on top, maybe at an angle or something. And it could have, a roof if you want to keep the rain off, or it could have the back could extend up higher and with signage on it, but essentially just a box with a TV screen with a touch screen in it. And that touch screen would just display a portion of the Visit Greenfield tourist website that we already have. And what you essentially do is just put a lockdown web browser in the computer that runs it. So rather than having your whole Microsoft Edge or whatever you use with all the buttons and being able to go to any website you want, it's a stripped down version of the browser that's minus the buttons and minus the address bar, so you can't type in different websites. You can only just touch the links on the screen to go to where it says. And since that website's being worked on already under another grant, it seems easy enough to add a little bit more money, a few $1,000s more, to piggyback onto that, to have some of the pages of the website tailored to serve the kiosk. And you can do that in one of two ways. You can either have it just display the Visit Greenfield MA website, and then instruct your developers to tailor that website to a kiosk application, which doesn't change much for them. It just means that they bear in mind that there are going to be some people in a touchscreen only application. Or you can also very easily make a portion of the website that doesn't normally link to from the part that people visit on their computer. So they're essentially hidden pages that only show up when the direct link is there, and the kiosk would link into that section. And so you can have almost like a separate website, but within the same domain and sharing all the same data and design stuff. So again, it's very simple to put that together. And I see it as being, it starts with something fairly basic. Maybe your home screen is, the Greenfield logo and welcome at the top, and there's 6 big buttons, and one says restaurants, one says recreation, one says businesses, and whatever other categories you need to have there. And you hit one of those and it takes you to information about that. And since you're doing it web-based like that, there's lots of pretty good opportunities there. You could have each restaurant, for example, you could tap on the restaurant and it pops up a little smaller window within the main window that has their menu and their hours, and then you tap outside that and it goes back to the previous screen. So again, just website, but just really kind of a simplified, like a mobile website where everything is streamlined and simplified and has big buttons. And doing it that way, I think the costs are pretty minimal. You have to prepare the space where it's going to go. So that may mean a slab, it may, stair, a ramp, whatever it takes to make a little spot for it. And the little weatherproof box itself, the touch screen will be more expensive than your average computer because it'll be some special industrial outdoor weatherproof touch screen. So that's your only, probably your biggest cost item. And the rest of it, like I said, can be handled with a change order type addition to the existing redevelopment work on that website. Get it all tied into one project. And if you do that, I think you can keep the cost pretty modest. Probably under $20,000 for the first one, and probably less than that for each additional one if you want to put in more than one. Where they would go, is still be debated a little bit. I think there's plenty of room to talk about it, but the initial thought that I had was one at either end of Main Street, one kind of near the chamber or the library area, and one at the beginning of the cultural district, because that's essentially the limit of where you would be doing walking kind of touristy stuff anyway, and then one by City Hall. And in the process, you can use that to upgrade the display that's at City Hall, which I gather needs servicing or something at this point anyway. And then you've got 3 nice locations where you can get all that information, and you can even work it into the actual tourism website at the same time. So should make it easy to maintain because you're not maintaining a second separate system, and should keep the cost reasonable to install. So at least that's what I had envisioned when I pitched the idea anyway. So that's where I'll stop myself.
Beautifully clear, Rachel. Thank you very much. Yeah, now let's entertain commentary and questions. Go ahead, Caitlin.
just curious, I think, at least in the minutes, we had talked about maybe having the kiosk, piggybacking on MJ's kiosk plan. Are we now separating it out and thinking of our own kiosks or separate kiosks that are specifically for this usage?
Well, there's not any touch screen capability or interactive capability. The screen you're talking about is the one in front of Town Hall that has
Oh, I'm
announcements.
talking about, I thought MJ had a plan.
the
Is
one
that
that
right,
she-
MJ?
yes.
For a new,
There could be interface there, I'm imagining. I mean, it sounds like a beautiful fit, right?
Yeah, I wasn't envisioning separate systems. If
Oh,
it's
okay,
got something
okay.
going already, then I think we just pool the funds and do something
Yeah,
a
just put
little bit
together.
better for all of them.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
want me
absolutely.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, MJ. Go ahead and respond.
We had a funding request in under something called Redo, which was some money, economic development money. One of the things we had asked for was the business directory and kiosk. We asked for 4 things. We did hear back
Oh, you did?
on our funding request. We did get funding for the kiosk and business directory. I'll share with you that that was not our highest priority. So we're having a conversation to see whether or not we can move some of the money around, but there might be actually some money to do some piece of this initial business directory kiosk. But I won't know that for a couple of weeks. But we might
Great.
actually be able to have something that might be able to start maybe the first one.
Great. I'm just going to add a comment before I tag you, Caitlin. The good news is this is a rolling grant, so there's not any time pressure. So we can certainly wait until MJ understands what she has in hand, and it could easily be the kind of thing that it's just the second one, comes from the Mass Development Seed Grant or something like that. It could be, we could just as someone said, we could piggyback. I'm sorry, Caitlin, go ahead, dear. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, MJ does, I really like Rachel's idea.
Hmm.
That is a business listing too, right? If it's connected to Visit Greenfield. So could that all be kind of just the same
It's all
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think we should limit it just to business. I mean, we
No,
No, I don't
have
either.
a
but-
public
sure.
arts listing, a restaurant listing, and
No, I don't either. But I think what MJ's talking about is the same thing. Like we don't have to add on. If the website is there, all those things are available.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's yes,
And our
and
goal is so that when people are in our downtown and they're looking at the bees and they get hungry, or they want to know, oh, is there some place to do what sort of shopping opportunities? We're trying to build out our Visit Greenfield website, Christian. He's my Visit Greenfield guy now. So that it's functional for multi-purposes in the downtown, as a place for people to find things when they know something's in the downtown. How do I find it? Or what's this about, or where's a good place to eat, or what's going on in town over the next couple of days. It's really it will be multifaceted, and I think it should be tied to something that's very flexible. You can get kiosks that are posters or painted onto boards, and those are really hard to keep up. We actually do have a touch screen right inside City Hall, which I use on occasion because it's actually very functional. And it does limit just to the city's website. But I think this is a great idea, and I think we'd find it very valuable to have in our downtown.
yeah, I agreed. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, I think it's a great idea too. And in fact, the original pedestrian park in Court Square had a kiosk drawn in, and it was going to be roughly like it's hard to describe, but MJ, do you remember where it was?
I do. It was
Yeah,
on the
remember?
corner close to you, Steve, close to Hawks and Reed.
Yeah,
It was
but it's a little
located-
further closer to the park, but in a central location.
Right,
However,
right.
I always envision this kiosk as being large enough that a person could actually be in it in case somebody, in addition to the electronics, I mean, it's a little old school, but it might be a nice touch if somebody was in it. And, maybe for selfish motives, I thought, well, maybe Hawks and Reed would sell tickets like, for events out of that kiosk if that were the case. Or maybe, if there was an event happening in town, there might be an individual able to be in it. I don't know if Rachel, you're describing a structure that's of that size that someone would be in it or no?
I was not envisioning a staff location. I was thinking of this as a virtual visitor center that
Sure.
at the very most, you might have a person who's working from an office or from home, be remote in, so it would be a head in the box. But I did not envision a human occupiable structure because it's got security concerns, restroom concerns, fire concerns. Once you do that, it really
Yeah.
changes the scope of the project pretty substantially, I
Yeah,
think.
I think we go from about 15 grand to about 150 grand kind of a thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Caitlin, sorry, go ahead.
Rachel, the thing you're describing, is that handicapped accessible? Is that ADA? Does that work for ADA requirements? Can it, I guess?
I don't see why it wouldn't. I
I
mean,
don't
it's
see
only
why,
a question of making sure that you design the access points so that it's at a height that it meets those requirements for everybody.
Right.
right,
And it
and
may
the
even be
angle
that,
too.
that it could
Mhm.
be angled. There could also be two screens, there could be one down low and another one up higher. I'm not an ADA expert, but I'm sure that there are ways to stay in compliance with that. No question.
Yeah, I don't even think it'll be complicated. I think it's even mostly just a matter of angling it to wheelchair height. But I have seen in my research, I have seen higher kiosks with a smaller one below. That is an option. I mean, I think it'd be quite a bit more expensive, but I think with simple angling and an appropriate height, I think and of course, should this go through, all of that will be examined, of course, Caitlin. Yeah. Great. Other comments or questions or any old thing?
I want to get, sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, yeah, I just want to go back to that. I'm thinking it through. To have an enclosed structure where somebody could be in it. Why is it so costly? What do you have to create? You said something about bathrooms? You have to have a bathroom in there?
I
Well,
don't
I
think
mean, the obvious concern is who's going to staff it, first of all. But, beyond that, because we don't have, we can't even get all of the real administrative staff that we need. We still don't have, like a full-time marketing person for the city. We just keep spreading that work
Right.
around whichever person catches it on a given administration. But
Yes.
so getting the staff for it is a huge problem. But even if you did, once it's a human occupied structure, you run into not only different zoning, but you run into the physical needs of the person, if they're going to work a 4-hour shift or an 8-hour shift, you know, where can they take their break? Where can they use a restroom? What happens if they cut themselves or have a medical emergency of some kind? You need fire suppression systems, and how big is it going to be? Just the size change. We're talking about a kiosk that might be 3 feet square and 4 feet high with some signage extending up above it versus going to what's the minimum size room that you can realistically expect somebody to do a shift in without feeling like they're claustrophobic. Now you're talking about what, a 15 by 15 structure or 10 by 12 structure with a roof and weather and windows.
Heating, cooling, are they
It's
gonna
not
be?
anywhere within our budget to do a structure. It's in our budget to do a kiosk business directory. And I want to be really
No,
clear,
man,
but I
yeah.
simply don't
I mean,
have the resources to do.
I don't envision, when I describe this, I don't envision a structure that would necessarily be staffed, but let's just play for a second. It's Green River Festival time, and 3-4 hours a day, somebody was in this structure selling tickets for the Green River Festival, or in a play that's happening downtown, or anything that relates to events downtown. But if I'm describing something that's not realistic, given some of the criteria, I guess as you say, when we don't have the budget to do that.
I think the beauty of this, Steve, is that you've got the option to direct people. Once you've got one or more of these kiosks, it's easy enough to point them to, the Hawks and Reed ticket window, or stop by City Hall to get tickets to Green River Fest, or stop by I guess we don't have the chamber office anymore, but I don't know if GBA is still working out of that office or not. But, the point being that you can steer people to where they need to go, which, while maybe not as nice as a staffed location, is 3/4 of the way there anyway.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get the idea, and I wasn't advocating that we would limit we would eliminate the kiosk part, still have the technology, but I was just thinking in terms of, would there be any possibility of having a individual that could, but it's clear to me that's not the direction we want to go.
I don't think people even usually buy tickets in person anymore. I mean, that's kind of getting outmoded.
And I was just going to say, you don't even see staffed visitor centers in cities anymore. We're not the only city that's lost their staffed visitor center. That's just,
Yeah.
it's becoming an anachronism at this point, unfortunately. But people don't go to them anyway. They go to their phone, you know,
Right.
and this sort of technology is very close to that. And in fact, it can even go back and forth with the phone, right? Because when you click on a restaurant name, one of the things that can pop up is a QR code that you can scan with your phone that puts it right into Google Maps. So then you can walk with your phone to the restaurant that you wanted to go to. So I think, you know, forward looking, this seems like the right way to me.
I think we've got clarity. I mean, I think MJ was crystal clear that what we have funding for is a podium style kiosk. And have we communicated everything we need to communicate about this topic before moving on to the Conti mural? Okay, great. Caitlin, how'd your meeting with Karen go?
He is a chatter.
She is a chatter. You
Wow.
were in there for 45 minutes if you were in there for 5 minutes. I
I
know
was
this.
on the phone, but it took a long time. And Rachel, I think she called you because I made the gears start grinding in her head, and she has a bunch of things she wants to talk to you about. But also one of the things is she thought you might remember the name of a Noelle or a Nicole.
Okay, so that's
Also-
Noelle Longhaul. That's all my fault. 5 years ago, Noelle, I'm as an artist I'm friends with, and she was excited about creating a mural, and then she had a ton of health problems that came into the way, so the whole thing ended up being scrapped. And
Okay.
Karen loved the design. That's
Yes,
where
she
that's
did.
coming from.
She told me all about it.
The
But
design was gorgeous.
yeah, that's what she said. But the bottom line is she's super excited about it. She's still fully on board.
Great.
You know, I did tell her, you know, that she said, well, who would the artist be? Blah, blah, blah. And I
Did you
know, I
do the
said, well, we would
RFP
want to
thing
have
with
her
her,
involved.
that we
of
put the
course,
word out?
Yeah, I told her we'd probably want to do an RFP. We might want to suggest subject matter. She was definitely gung ho on that woman, but I did, you know, I told her that either she could be involved or we would bring whatever, you know, she would be part of the decision making process.
Good.
But she's definitely still very
That's
interested.
amazing,
So
because that is probably the most important wall in the city. I mean, you see it when you come in on the Amtrak train. It's the biggest wall and that's so great, Caitlin.
It's completely visible from Energy Park. It could really transform that area. So so that was really exciting. And I think we could move forward with some kind of discussion, maybe next time or the time after that, about the RFP and what kind of imagery do we really want and things like that. I mean, I think that's a bigger discussion than tonight.
Right, but
so
it's
that was
certainly,
exciting.
it's an important one, and it's something we should think about. So here, committee, we have the opportunity to have, and is everybody aware of what this wall is? Is there anybody who doesn't know and I can describe it? Okay, great. We have this huge opportunity to create a magnificent piece of art on the biggest wall in Greenfield. So let us think through very clearly what kind of guidance we want to put into this RFP. It would be really great if folks would do a little homework. I mean, not homework, but you know, if they would ponder this thought about what something magnificent would be. I mean, I've had a million thoughts about this, but it's just so great that this can move forward, Caitlin. And I know preliminarily it was about, this was a long time ago, so I'd say it's going to be about a $15,000 project. I think we were at about $8,000 several years ago when Noelle was going to do it, but I think it's going to be significantly more. But we can have a ton of in-kind stuff, which will please the grant, because I know that Mark Zacchio will give us his cherry picker. I'm sure we can get free paint. I mean, that'll knock us down, you know, from 15 grand to probably around 10 grand, which is really wonderful. Great. How about any commentary or questions for Caitlin or for the room? Yeah, thank you, Ellie.
Oh, I want to brainstorm about, or, you know, on my own before the next committee meeting, think about what designs and subjects might be good. But Could you get me going a little bit on that? Like, give me a little
Yes,
bit of
of
guidance
course.
and,
Let's play a
and,
little bit. Let me
and
share some thoughts with you.
okay.
So how about like the bees are an amazing idea? How about a giant postcard that says welcome to Greenfield in the 1953 era? Yeah, Caitlin says that's a great idea. We have so many wonderful things that could sort of be a tourism draw. And actually that, how about that, Ellie? Like just for your imagination, like what is going to make somebody fall in love with Greenfield looking out the window on Amtrak, right? And there's so many wonderful things. What comes to your mind right now, sweetheart? What are you thinking about?
oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's more a matter of what kind of technical constraints are there when an artist is executing a mural.
Mhm.
I was thinking it would be wonderful if there was like a mural printer, like you could just sort of hold this
Well,
wand
that is
up
a
and it
way
would.
that it can happen. Actually, it can happen with there are lots of ways. I did a ton of research on this a few years ago. You can put up panels, connecting panels, and they can be done in studio. But I think this wall is so huge, it's probably going to be a hands-on scaffolding thing where scaffolding and or cherry picker will be put up, and artists. I mean, it might be the kind of thing that it takes several bodies to take the design that either gets sketched upon the wall, or the other thing that you can do is you can project it. I actually happen to have some of these high-powered projectors. You take a projector and you zap the image onto the wall, and then you trace that out, and then you paint from that tracing with a printout beside you for color matching and that kind of thing.
And so do you need to, like if you wanted to render, say, a black and white photograph,
Mhm.
could you get the different grayscales that you wanted?
Absolutely, absolutely. I could actually, if you wanted to, I could dig up a little research and just share with the committee about the kinds of murals that are possible. One thing you might want to do, Ellie, is there's a quite an extensive collection of murals locally in Springfield. Is it called Fresh Paint, y'all? I'm sorry, I'm old. Okay. So there's this thing in Springfield called Fresh Paint. And what they had done is they commissioned artists actually from all over the country to come, and it was an orchestrated thing. It's something I had wanted to do in Greenfield years and years ago, but never came to fruition. And sorry, MJ, did you want to throw a comment in?
They did a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a huge project in Springfield and lots
Huge.
of people and lots of planning and
Tons of resources, tons of planning, and there's actually, as I recall, there's actually an organization that does these, and I think it's the same one that did. If y'all know Philadelphia, has anybody ever hung out in Philly before? There are probably 75 murals throughout the city of Philadelphia, and they had that same or a similar organization orchestrate the whole thing. So yes, you can have exquisite gradations of tone and color. Ellie, you can have anything you want on a wall, and that technology is completely possible, as is that artistry. So yeah,
Thank you.
it's pretty exciting. Steve?
Yeah, there's a Keene, New Hampshire has a tremendous mural project, the Wall Dog project. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that one. Also, I think they did a historical with murals, a historical perspective on Keene. Guy named Peter Ponessa,
Great.
and might be worth at least doing a little research on what they did. If
Yeah,
that's a
go ahead.
type of
Yeah,
mural.
please feel free, Steve, to go ahead and do that research and offer it to us. Why don't you do that?
Okay,
That would
yeah,
be
I'd be
terrific.
happy to do that.
Great. How about any other commentary other than enthusiasm for Caitlin's initial foray into the Conti building? Yeah, thank you, Christian.
Yeah, way back at the beginning of this conversation, you had mentioned that this grant was a rolling grant. I don't think it is.
Oh,
I
tell me
think it
what the language is. I thought I read that.
yeah, it's part of the One Stop for Growth application, which is an application you can do a lot of different grants in one, and that does have a timeline where it does have due dates.
Could you read the timeline for us? Do you happen to be looking at that on screen, sweetheart?
Yeah, so um, The full application submission opens May 2nd. Full
Okay.
application closes June 3rd.
Thank you
And
very much. That's
yep.
very helpful. I apologize for misreading that.
There were two
Yeah,
different grants here.
Rachel, go ahead.
There were two different grants involved here too, though, right? Is this,
Yeah, one is called seed grant, I believe.
and
And
was that the one that was the
I
rolling
think we
application?
were going to be going for the seed grant.
Well, I
So
thought
if
it was
you're looking
one of the two had a rolling application, I thought, and the other one didn't, maybe.
I might have misread that. You know what, Christian, can you read the verbiage for us? What does it say exactly, just so we can hear it?
Yeah, here on, let's see. Maybe it is only the second one that's part of the One Stop for Growth. Because it says Category 1, Category 2, and then there's this section where it says this program is part of the Community One Stop for Growth, which would entail all the due dates. So it's kind of unclear from based on the webpage.
Oh, so it's unclear. So we need to make an inquiry just to find out what the deal is. The good news is that the deadline that is a deadline, if it is a deadline, is May. So that's good.
And we were talking about doing the larger of the two grants,
Yes.
correct? The one
I
that
think
was
it's
up to
15 grand.
15,000.
Yeah, 15,000. Yeah. So actually I'll dig into that, and Christian, you want to do that together? We're going to find out exactly what the scoop is. We might need to make a phone call to get that clear. That's okay. All right. Other commentary about thank you, Ellie.
I have another question about the mural, how it gets done. Could
Mhm.
you, is it always the case that the same artist provides the design and executes the mural, or is it possible?
Oh, not necessarily. That's a very good question. Often a mural is designed by an artist and executed by like a team it's like I hate to say paint by number because that sounds diminishing, and I don't mean to diminish this at all, but essentially what you would do is you would have colors that are chosen by the artist, the numbers of Sherwin-Williams or whatever it is, and the correct amounts purchased, and then the projection or however it is placed upon the wall, and then often a team of people will carry out a project. That's not unusual, dear.
And what about vintage images? Is that something that people like?
That could be beautiful. It could be, and we live in a community that has done a great job of preserving images from the past. I mean, Ellie, I think I might be hearing your gears turning, my love, and I think that's pretty great. If you find an image through the Historical Society or the Museum of our Industrial Heritage or whatever it might be, or just your own research, you could submit that. What you would need to do is to do the research about, how to make it happen. I think we would have to place that upon the shoulders of the artist who is offering, their commission. But yeah, I think a black and white photograph could be amazing. And I've actually seen that before. I've seen it in Philadelphia of, forget who it was, but it was an abolitionist. It's a sepia. It was not black and white, but it was a sepia, a reproduction of a sepia photograph of an abolitionist on the side of a wall. And since I was walking around, I didn't have any information about it, but it was exquisite, absolutely exquisite. So that's a yes. Yeah, Rach.
Just to add on to that a little bit, vintage style stuff is very much in vogue and appropriate. You can take a look at the brand new greenfieldbeeffest.org website, and you can see the logo is very vintage styled and very, very cool. You do have to be mindful when you get into actual vintage images about intellectual property, though, because thanks to Walt Disney, copyright is like 80 years after the death of the owner or something ridiculous like that now. So you may, if you use an actual image, you may need permission from the copyright holder.
Ellie, go.
I know of a woman, and I don't remember her name right now. I have it written down somewhere. She was in Turner's Falls, and she acquired a stash.
I know this woman. She did this huge project. This is the coolest thing ever. I'll look it up with you. Yes, there are some amazing images that she found. Yeah.
So I
What was that?
wonder,
Can you remember?
maybe we could work with her to get one of those images. They are amazing.
Absolutely beautiful. That,
would
that was
that be-
all over Facebook. Can you remember, Caitlin, what was that called?
No, I don't, but I was just gonna say, I think this conversation is about the RFP. You know,
Correct.
this is what we will work on when we're working out the RFP and who we might want to ask to submit. I mean, we don't even have to do one, but that's part, I think,
it's
of a
correct to
larger
do one, actually. May I
conversation.
offer correction there, Caitlin? I think
Yeah.
it would be correct to do an RFP just to open
Oh,
up.
I do too.
Oh, okay.
I think we should do one.
Good.
But I think we can also invite people
Oh,
to
totally.
submit
Totally.
to the RFP.
Totally.
But I think this is all part of the larger conversation, and that it would be great if we could all come next time and have each of us, have a couple of ideas like that, or people that we're interested in contacting.
Great.
Thank you.
So really, so dig into that, Ellie. Okay. I mean,
Well-
think about you. If I know that woman is on Facebook. I actually followed her and tracked all the work that she was doing. So if you can't find her, I can probably dig in.
No,
and
I know. I actually have her name written down.
You do.
Um,
Okay.
And I actually I have some amazing vintage images myself.
Oh,
So part of my questioning is an exploration as to whether I might actually have a design. And I don't know, I have no idea how to then take it to the next step. I mean, how to submit it to an RFP. I'm not a painter, but I have
Right.
some
Well,
ideas.
there's another way you could do this, and I know I'm falling into Caitlin's category right now. But for instance, someone like Jess Wisman would be able to translate visual imagery, and I can share her name with you. She's a very prolific mural maker and sign painter and artist in the region. She lives in Hatfield. She runs a farm. So there are people that we can connect you with if you sort of want to do the work to sort of create your own RFP with an image and a team. That sounds really exciting. And by the way, just to encourage you further, one second, Caitlin, just to encourage you further, there are other walls too. If it doesn't necessarily have to be the big wall, there are other walls. I've been in strong communication with a very good friend of mine, Tim Grader, who owns a few buildings in town, and he's very interested in this process. So if for some reason it wasn't quite appropriate for the giant wall, which I'm not saying that it's not, because it could be amazing, but if for any reason a smaller wall would work too, we have people to connect you with. There, Caitlin, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm
talked
just
too
curious, can committee members?
the way that works
I guess
on the
that's what Rachel
GLCC is
did,
you have to recuse from the
Okay.
decision.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, exciting. Ellie, look at you. You're cooking creatively. That makes me so happy. All right. Any further discussion of the mural? And then I want to touch base with Heidi about one thing further that she had brought up. Oh yeah, go ahead, Caitlin.
I also just want to give a little report on the underpass.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I forgot. Yeah.
Project.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Which isn't as big of a report, but I did talk to Matt, is that his name?
Yeah, Cowan.
But this project is a little further away conceptually, partly because he said we would have to redo the proposal. We have to completely re-look at the figures because he said
old.
that it's not really what we were asking for before. It's different, it's old and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
And MJ, I'm going to reach out to you, but he wants to go down there and look at it. And we're still going to have that conversation about, is it DOT? Who controls that? Can we even put like a one bolt into the wall? There's a lot of outstanding questions about physically what we can actually do there. So I want just people to be psychologically prepared for the idea that that might not work. And he had a lot of technical questions. We may have to have some other folks from the DPW or George Vandalinder just come, because there are questions about where are we getting electricity, how much do we, it's a much more technical project.
Okay.
So I just want to let you know that we're a bit further away on that one.
Okay, all right. Well, that said, it may morph into something completely different. I think we all agree that the tunnel sucks, and it would be really lovely to have something. So if there's something else that we can do, Matthew is a very creative person, and if you give him the playpen within which he can work, even if it means not a single bolt on a single thing, there's probably still, because it's illumination, there's probably still something that can be done. So I hope that we can stay a little bit open-minded about what is creatively possible or what is technically possible.
Yes.
And
And I
okay.
want to continue that conversation. I just want to be able to, well, we're probably going to need to loop MJ in at this point because we are going to have to start talking about permissions, and also physically we'll have to ask the DPW and the electrical guys, just like what can we physically accomplish here.
So I just want to make the point that that's not necessarily the worst news, because there's always, I come from a theater background. You can always figure shit out, always. So there will be some way it can be done. All right, great. Any further commentary about that? Steve?
Yes, hi. On that note, Heidi Weeks from
Yes.
Plume. Yes, you've had some beautiful work in your window. I don't know the artist. Is her name Kiki?
Her name is Kiki.
Kiki, yeah. And I noticed that Green Space just did something with Danielle Lucier. And
Yeah.
I thought these windows look so great. Could we maybe think about using something like those artists or similar artists in some of these empty storefront windows like Wilson's? I don't know if they would allow us to do it, but how did you happen to come up with that design? I'm just curious.
She actually works at Parker and Hurtis, our other companies, and she worked with me, and we just kind of actually created a Pinterest board because I wanted her to paint something for our holiday window, and so we just collaborated together and basically just let her really do whatever she wanted. I told her, this is what I want, and make it happen, and she did.
So you know Danielle as well?
I have not met her yet, but I've been in contact with her about possibly carrying her work in my shop.
Okay.
But I watched her paint the mural.
I know her a little bit.
You guys know.
Yeah.
Does everybody know what I'm referring to? This is window art, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
Window art. It's really fabulous. I think that might be an area that we might want to try to support.
I love that, Steve. Why don't you do some homework on that and find out which landlords would be open to it? And that's a great idea. Yeah, if you want to come back with a report on who would be open to having their windows painted on and how that would work, please do that. That is fantastic.
Okay. Be happy to.
Great. Wonderful. All right, and the last thing I wanted to say is that I wanted to follow up. There's certainly no funding available, and we don't know where it stands, but Heidi and I had a quick email exchange about continuing with the idea of planters on the median strip. There's so much out there. There are very beautiful planters everywhere.
And
So,
self-watering, that's amazing.
I found that. I was like,
Yes.
well, we don't even have to go out there with a watering can.
Yeah.
And they're not even that wildly expensive. So, so Heidi, tell me what you were thinking of, dear, after we had our little chat.
Well, I did get a quote from one of them. I just
Great.
picked one that I liked that I thought was really cool, and they were about $500 each.
That is not much money.
No,
It
and they're
really
pretty
isn't.
big.
Oh, I was going to say, how big is that?
Oh, I had, let me find the dimensions. I had it somewhere. Where did I have it? Oh, that's not it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I'm not technically savvy like some people here. So you'll have to
Kristen is the
forgive
boss
me.
of that. Yeah.
Ah, here it is. Hello. It's opening. They're about, let me see.
The pictures that I saw, they were like about 40 inches wide. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's about, yeah, there was a round one that I saw that was about 54 inches,
54.
48.
Okay.
Yeah, they were pretty big. The round ones that I found could you could put a small tree in it.
Mhm.
And then there was some really pretty, like, kind of rectangular ones. Those were the ones that are about $500 each.
I love it. And the things that I saw when I sort of went across the country to see who had done it is they line them up along the median strip, and they're very beautiful. And they don't take up, the thing that's interesting about them is they're self-watering. They don't take up much space like themselves, but they have a lot of impact. And they certainly have a lot of impact when they're collectively lined up. I know that we actually have no funding source for that now, although maybe the cultural district could ask for that. I don't know if it falls under the right categories for the cultural district funding, but I don't know. MJ, is there any beautification money in the universe? I don't know. Is that a thing?
Uh, well, we did get the Mass Shared Streets money. We bought the planters, the movable planters that we have.
Right.
We're,
Is there another round of that could be coming up for Heidi's idea?
What about the revitalization plan? This is something that could be worked into
Oh,
that.
that's
We're getting
not
ready to
Yeah.
start talking about the downtown revitalization plan again.
yeah, we're actually doing what's called a streetscape improvement plan. We'll have a consultant and working with the town as we're talking about the areas between the curbs and the storefronts and what that should look like. You know, we're doing some infrastructure planning around what the roadway and the road layout and the parking and the bike lanes will look like on Main Street. But we're actually going to be looking at what's the other part of the public realm, the sidewalk area. And so we have some planning going on around that. But in terms of money in hand at the moment to buy planters, I don't have that.
Okay.
Not
Well,
that it
how
could-
about
But it could be built into a budget that we might develop to implement the things that we come up in the downtown revitalization plan.
very good. So how easy would it be to include Heidi in those communications so that she could help have a say in and offer some ideas there?
And the downtown revitalization plan kickoff reboot is happening Monday night, and that's where the
Yeah, on Monday
conversation
night.
happens. And there'll be a whole series of what would people like to see happen in the downtown. First of all, what's happening now? We'll share with you everything that's on our plate. Actually, you can go look in the Wilson storefront, and you'll see the whole display of things that we know about. It's about properties and buildings and roadways. But we are, one of the things that we heard was that as we are looking at our downtown, we need to consider storefront to storefront and what does that experience feel like? And, making
Absolutely.
it more pleasant, increasing the number of amenities, street furniture, street equipment, just that makes a better walking feel, is part of what the streetscape improvement plan will include. And there'll be a consultant working with us to talk about what we want to see there and how we see it happening. If you take a look at
So
what happened in downtown Turner's Falls, they did a streetscape improvement plan several years
beautiful.
ago. And you
With Tim
you
DeChristopher's
feel there's
exquisite,
it's
exquisite
very
sculpture.
palpable difference in terms of what it feels like to walk down, what is it, Avenue A, Main Street there, than it did 10 years ago. So.
Yeah, no, a huge difference. So Heidi, sorry to add another thing, but do you want to go to that meeting on Monday and throw your 2 cents in,
I
dear?
think I already am it's
Great.
You can go virtually as well.
Yeah, no, it's just
so
a
I
Zoom
think
thing.
I'm
Yeah.
already planning on it.
Excellent,
And
excellent.
understand that the meeting Monday isn't for everybody to make all the decisions about the downtown. It's just sort of the kickoff. There'll be an ongoing conversation between now and probably October as we sort of share ideas, play this thing out, put it on paper, move it around, and figure out what we want our downtown to like. What's the plan for our downtown? And that's going to have several different elements.
Right. I think really my deeper intention here is just to offer the opportunity for communication between Heidi and MJ so that there's a strong understanding between the two of you that this would be a beautiful thing, and you've got some support from a downtown business that would encourage those beautiful planters. I think that's all we can accomplish from this committee, but I think that's something. Here. All right. I think we have, yeah, Rachel.
I just wanted to pop a quick notice out there that the RFP is out now for two
Oh, yeah.
DVDs. So if you know any artists who might like to submit, or you would like to submit yourself, or would like to help spread that around, any of those would be wonderful. You can find it on my Studio 7 Facebook page and share from there, or the Cultural District Facebook page. I shared it, and GBA, several other pages. So any help in getting proposals in would be wonderful. Thank you.
It's really exciting, Rachel, that the bee theme continues throughout, and we're going to have an even larger, largest public art offering in the city of Greenfield's history is going to be even larger than it is. Steve, do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, two questions. One is, where are the bees going? And two, can the artists that already did the bees be included in this, or do they have to be new artists?
There are no restrictions on the artists. These ones, since they're being done strictly with private funds, the ultimate decision will rest in the hands of the sponsors. So whether they choose to favor artists that haven't done it before or not, that'll be up to them, but they haven't given me any limits like that to say no. So certainly are free to submit. And then locations, there are actually a total of 3 going in, one of which is already done, which is why there's only 2 RFPs out. One is going, and Greenfield Savings has sponsored 2 of them. So before I tell you locations, let me just put that out there. But one is going on the parking lot side of Greenfield Savings in the landscaped area that they have there in front of the building on that side. One I am hoping to install near the movie theater, because that was, one of them is sponsored by Isaac Mass and the Garden Cinema. You know, presuming we get approval from the mayor's office, which is a conversation that hasn't happened yet. And the other, we're very much hoping to install somewhere near the library, you know, pending discussion about not impacting construction and you know, can we put it out temporarily and come back and reinstall it after they're done, or maybe it doesn't bother them at all and we can put it in, and that conversation needs to happen, but that's where we're hoping to put them.
That's so exciting, Rachel. Congratulations. Your dream just doesn't quit. It's fantastic.
Well, it is, you know, what's funny is I love that the theme is being taken up, you know, beyond just our work. That was part of my original hope, was that this became a little bit of a branding for Greenfield. And so I emailed the fellow who's making the bases now. I made the first 6 in-house, and I'm not repeating that. It was just not my kind of work. But so I'm working with Deerfield Valley, or Deerfield Woodworking, I forget what the full name is. And so I emailed him, I said, I'm going to need 2 more of those bases. And he said, no problem. And he also sends me back a picture of a planter that he just finished, that he put bees to the front of. So,
Well, why don't we do that on the median strip?
no, we can definitely have these made right in town. That's mostly what he makes. In fact, Heidi, didn't he make the ones in front of your store?
No, those I made those.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to steal your credit.
Those are old filing cabinets.
So
Oh, no
funny.
kidding.
Yeah.
Well,
I
there's
think it's
another
ones for
idea.
the city.
That's great. God bless you, Heidi Weeks. Holy cow. We are so lucky to have you in our orbit. We really are. And I love the idea of like not spending money out of the city and giving somebody who lives in Deerfield the opportunity to make planters for the median strip. That I had no idea. And I'm
His
sure that
business
this
is
must
actually
be
in,
covering-
his business is on Hope Street.
Oh, it's here. Oh, that's even better. Oh,
He made the planters he made all of our planters, our removable planters.
wonderful. We don't have to go anywhere,
Yeah,
Heidi. We
great.
just might have to buy the mechanism for the whatever, the self-watering thing. Great. Good news. All right, here. And we is there any further commentary on or questioning that on anything that has happened thus far in this meeting? Because I think we're getting ready to call this meeting to adjournment, correct? All right, wonderful. It's 7:17. I will offer, oh, go ahead, Rich.
I just would like to remind us to schedule our next meeting before we leave the room,
But
so we
it's
don't
already
have to do a
scheduled
doodle.
because we are pre-scheduled.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yeah, remember we are at this time every month. So
Oh,
we will meet
fantastic.
next month. Yep. And Caitlin, you had a finger. I saw your finger. Oh, that's it. Okay.
I'd
All
say,
right.
yeah, we've set it up.
Yeah, we've got it set up. So, shall we go around the room? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
I am
Caitlin, for
Second.
that. And Steve, thank you for your second. Now we'll go around the room. Rachel, how do you vote?
I vote to adjourn. Aye.
Thank you. Genius. Caitlin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Great. Gretchen, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right. Ellie, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Thank you. Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right. Heidi, how do you vote?
I.
I vote aye. This meeting is done. All right, we'll see you next month, y'all. Great work and looking forward to hearing your ideas about everything that's going on. Wonderful.
Thanks.
Good night,
Okay,
friends.
take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.